You can throw that screen up on top of the monitor too, can't you?
I can. I think we're live again. I think
Hey.
we're live. I think let me that over here. All right, so here we are. I'm not sure if people are finding us yet, but maybe they will.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll come back. I have to text Rusty and tell Kelsey, we're back.
We're back.
I'll text them and say, hey, we're back.
Text them. I'm going to text. Sorry about that. So for those who are tuning in, we had a little bit of technical difficulty in the other stream. Hopefully this is coming through here. So if you can hear us, let me know so that we can get that done.
Hey, Rusty.
Rusty's with us. Excellent.
Yeah.
How is it now, Rusty? Is it better? Or well, I guess can't really wait for the talk.
Hey, we're synced. Hey.
All right. So what's been going on is I've been using this application called OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software, and that's what puts the Ono Coffee logo down here. But I think maybe my machine is just kind of old and it's bogging it down because I've been experiencing problems with it the entire time I've been trying to use it. So maybe it's better just to, like right now we're running the stream right from the camera into the computer directly into YouTube servers. So hopefully this works better. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
All right, we're back to making the coffee first, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the Bialetti.
All right. So we got the Bialetti. The Bialetti what? The mocha pot was designed by what? Alfred Bialetti in 1933. And
Alfred.
This is Alfred. And this is Alfred. And I'm Alfred. Go figure. It's like Alfred square. Cube.
Yeah.
All right. And so this is the original Bialetti. And like I said, I bought this and I've never used it because I just never did. I don't know why. But basically this has a lower chamber. And if you've never used that, there's a metal filter here. Right? Metal filter here. It has a gasket that seals. And then you put the coffee in this basket, right? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, this basket here. And then there's water. You put water in the lower chamber.
Yep. Just don't cover that pressure valve.
This thing.
Yep. That's bad. Because if it overpressurizes, it has to have a way to escape.
Oh, this will explode.
Right. If it's covered up, then no way for pressure. Lose pressure. It will go boom.
I wonder how many Italian anarchists tried this. So it's pretty straightforward. But you brought yours.
Yeah.
All right, so
I brought mine.
We're gonna compare.
Yep. So this is mine from home. I pretty much use it every day.
So this is the original mocha pot.
Mm-hmm.
This is what?
The Arabica. Yeah, it says it right down the front.
Arabica.
Yeah. And so I went to Italy for work last year around May, and it was actually May 1st. It was a holiday, and I'm walking. I had the day off because it's a holiday. Because of the holiday, so I'm walking around Milan, and I find the Bialetti store. I'm like,
oh, the actual boutique.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, I've got all my luggage with me, and I'm walking through the store. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. It's not one you see normally in the stores. It's something different. So if you look inside the top of mine, and then you kind of compare that to the top on the traditional, you see the difference in the spout. So that extra cap is designed so it builds a little bit more pressure and helps develop the crema of what would be your home espresso a little bit better. So it tries to mimic what you would get from an espresso machine.
It moves.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Plus, it's pretty cool when you get to watch it go out. When it finally builds enough pressure that the whole thing starts to cascade out.
Oh, yes.
It's pretty cool. It's a little bit different than the coffee just coming from the spouts at the top.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to make this, and let's put this aside. We've got our burner. I guess we'll use yours. You know how to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never,
Sure,
I've
we can
never-
use
You don't
mine.
even have to direct me. All right. So
All right.
with
So-
the part, right?
Yep. So let's unscrew the top and separate the basket. We're
Mamma mia.
actually going to pour the water into the
Oh,
top.
there it is.
So normally I do try to weigh this while I'm at home.
You weigh the water?
I weigh everything. Yeah.
Oh, smart.
So I
normally do that. But
I try to keep a 1 to 10, but we're going to try to go off, get pretty close. So let's grab the top there.
okay.
All right. And on this, what I would normally do is fill the water just so it's underneath the valve here.
Oh, you fill it to. Oh, that's what you use. Okay.
That's what.
And then you pour it into here.
And then I pour it in there.
Oh.
There's a little ledge here that you're supposed to fill it up to, but I found that that's not. I can go more. So, for me, I fill it up just to the bottom of that, just ever so. So it's not even. The water doesn't touch it. It's just right up to it.
I see. Okay. Let's try that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've got this water, and if you've seen some of the other videos on my other channel, on the Spro Coffee channel, there's this one about the coffees of Laos, and this is the water that they sent. This is the formulated water for that. So this water is from a company called Third Wave Water. They send you this packet, this little pouch right here, and this pouch is filled with like minerals, and so you use distilled water, which I have, and you mix it into here, and it gives you this formulated water that is ideal for coffee. So that's what we're going to use today. So we're going to fill. I can't really see too well, but I'm going to fill that. So just below the
Just
cap,
below.
right?
You don't want to touch the cap. Just be a little bit below.
Like a millimeter, or
Yeah.
okay.
And that probably is about 200. A little bit more.
Oh, a
little bit more, yeah.
All right.
You're getting probably pretty close to 210. Maybe that's probably good right there. 220.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right below.
Yep.
Okay. Then pour that into here.
Yep.
All right. Oh.
And then for the basket, you're not really going to pack it tight like espresso. You know, like
Right,
you
you
normally would
just-
do in the machine.
You just fill it to the
You
top.
fill it
that's
to the top. I give it a little bit of tamp. I clean it up. But what you want to try to prevent is the coffee from getting on the edges.
Oh, right. So that'll interfere with the
The seal. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got our Heritage Espresso pre-ground. I ground it a little while ago, and
Normally I put about 22 grams of coffee in there. Is what for my basket. What I
How's
normally
that?
do. I'll keep going.
I'll keep going. More?
Yep, more. You pretty much want to fill it up, and then you're just going to level it out. Yeah.
All right. And level it off by wiping it out, or level it off by containing it?
By compression. I don't have the Spro fingers, but plus mine's normally in the morning, right when I first wake up.
All right, put that in there.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny. I get it. Even though I'm not using an espresso machine, I watched your videos on the Ono channel.
On the Spro channel.
Spro channel, yeah. And looking at
Spro
the puck
Coffee on YouTube.
Yeah, looking at the puck. What does the puck tell you, right? And it's funny. I didn't notice it before, but if I do it right, sometimes I'll see that indentation of the coffee on the top or of where the filter and the gasket
Yes,
meet.
okay.
So I'll see that. I'm like, okay, this was actually pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad it translates to this.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
The next one is actually going to be about like visually, like it's like a hack. Like if you're like super high level hack, like you can, if you watch it, you can understand it and it talks to you.
Oh,
That'll be
All right.
So
And now the burner. what level should we have the burner at?
Wait, what level?
So we want to turn it on and then turn it down until the flames are just.
Oh, the flames are not working on this one.
Just on the outside. You don't want them to go around the vessel.
What is wrong with this thing?
You just want it to go
It was
right to the edge.
when I tested it yesterday. Of course, I was using a different butane yesterday.
There we go.
Oh, it's not. Huh. Maybe it doesn't work with the. That's funky.
This is live.
I know, this is what happens in live broadcast.
All
All right, we're going to go to another one. Another burner. Hold on a second. Let me go grab that.
Okay.
Al will entertain you while I step away.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I'm trying to see what you guys have been saying. Jay's a lot closer than I am, so. One to 10, yeah. Yeah, Kelsey, I use a 1 to 10 ratio with the Bialetti. Because it's trying to mimic that espresso, I up my ratio a pretty good bit. I don't use that 1 to 15 ratio. So.
All right, this one should work because this is the one that I cooked my dinner on earlier today.
Oh, perfect.
But of course, it's the dirty one. Thank you. It's all like gunky and ugly. Uh-oh.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
All right, now I'm going to burn my hands. The thing about this is that these burners are
small.
Yeah, the rails are really small.
Yeah. All right, turn it down.
So just
keep
so
going down. Keep
bottom,
going.
right?
Up a little bit more. And right about there. You see how we're right on the outside edge
All right.
of it.
You want to open that so we can see?
Yeah, sure.
Of course, you can't see.
I know.
Sorry.
It'd been nice. But
with the other software, we actually had it so that I had this separate camera. But the YouTube only takes one camera, so now.
And normally what ends up happening is by the time I get this on the stove and I get things going and I start my Chemex and I'm getting that going as well at the same time, by the time I'm like just done with the bloom on the Chemex and starting to pour, that's when this normally goes off.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
It normally goes off right when I'm trying to do something else with the other coffee that I'm trying to brew.
All right. So Kelsey says, "Did you talk to?"
Yeah. We were
just
talking about
okay,
that,
good, okay,
the
good.
ratio. I do use a larger ratio when using the Bialetti.
Okay.
So he's having a
the new M Bombay with the Esteli. Oh, excellent. He says, if you have not had the new Esteli, you need to try it.
the Esteli M Bombay or yeah.
The Esteli coffee with the M Bombay.
Oh,
the M Bombay M.
Yeah, I haven't tried the M Bombay M, and the Esteli coffee is really good.
Oh, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, but the M Bombay, that's a cigar you don't find very many places.
No, it's hard to find. Who has it? The Rolo has it, right?
The Leaf has it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can never remember which one it is, but it has the white label on it. I also found it in Draper's down outside of DC, but it has a white label. And if you want to talk about how size affects a cigar, that is a perfect example. You go to the Corona size, and it's really different. It's good. And then if you go to the Figurato size, which is a lot larger ring gauge, man, it is a completely different cigar. Completely different.
Oh.
And so if you want to exercise on what size and how size can affect the flavor profile, that's a fantastic cigar to see that difference.
Oh, I'll check that out. I'll check that out next time. All right. What we're doing here? How long does it usually take?
It takes like a minute or two.
Okay.
So what we'll start to what in mind, because it's a little bit different than the traditional, what we'll start to see is the coffee will start to leak out, start to drip out into the bottom, and then as that pretty much when it gets all the way around the edge, that's when that valve is going to go off, and that valve.
The valve makes a noise.
Oh yeah, it makes you hear it release.
Okay.
When after it gets to a certain point of the extraction, it'll start to almost bubble, and that's when you want to turn the heat off. If you leave the heat on when it starts to bubble, you will blow the pressure valve.
Okay.
So you hear a little like a high pitch, like you would on like a Whistler like kettle. You know that grandma used to have on the stove.
I'm kind of excited now.
Yeah.
Makes me want to raise my seat up.
Yeah. It's fun to watch actually. Because on the weekend when I actually take my time more, it's not.
I think there's a little bit coming out already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow. All right. I'm gonna make some. Maybe we'll shoot some video of this while we're.
Splice it in later.
That'll take a moment. All right. So we're gonna make Shakerato, right? So for the Shakerato, we need to have a shaker. Right. Cool. I've got the shaker here, and we need ice.
Yeah.
Ice.
Yep.
So
we got ice
ready. Yeah, I've got ice right here.
It's starting to settle. You hear pressure building, so the valve starts to you hear the coffee backing up to the valve and starting to build pressure, and so now you're getting close to it popping over.
Oh.
It's starting to do happy things.
Oh yeah, it's starting to come through. Oh, it's already come through.
No, not yet.
No, it's filling.
Oh yeah, it is now. Yeah, get ready to turn it off.
Oh, there we go.
Right there. Turn it off.
Whoa.
And there it is. That's our homemade espresso. Did we get? Yeah, we got a little bit of creme on the top there.
All right. Things gonna explode on us. Can you see? Look at that crema. Not bad at all. It's gonna spill. It's gonna spill on my new table. All right, so let's move this out of the way.
Yep.
Let's drop that down. That'll be fine. Okay. All right, we got our coffee. We need our ice. How much ice do you think we should be using? What's kind of quite a bit?
It's a fair amount, but it's not.
You say that much?
Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit more.
Using this much ice.
Maybe one or two more. Not much more.
All right, and then we've got. We'll put the sugar.
Yep.
We have sugar here. This is pure Domino's from Baltimore here, our hometown. How much sugar do you think we should do? 1, 2, 3, 4?
2, 3.
All right, let's do 3. 1.
It's supposed to be a 4-serving
3.
For the Bialetti there, that size.
Now, are we going to use? We're not going to use all of this.
That's
a lot.
Yeah, it is a fair amount. Okay, let's use
that right,
at least
or?
half. Yeah,
At least half. Okay.
yeah. I don't know. That normally only gets a quarter of the way around the beltway.
More?
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah, let's start shaking.
I'm going to do that. All right, so we'll do this.
Make sure you're tight.
Here's another bar towel just in case it explodes on me. So what's the technique? Like that?
Just shake the crap out of it, Jed. But when you're shaking, you want to have that. That's why you see people kind of do that.
Why are they doing that?
So you want a circular shake.
Like to go around like this?
Yeah, because you're trying to mix the contents.
Why?
You're not just shaking the contents up and down. Here, it's been a little while.
I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, but you don't have that thing that those guys are doing with that.
That's all bullshit.
Kelsey says there's no such thing as so much coffee. If you want shaking, keep going. Well, that's a lot of shaking.
It is a lot of shaking.
All right. Let's.
Yep.
Proper Shakerato glasses. Oh,
that's see, that's what we want to see. But you see how we have that?
Oh, that wasn't enough.
Well, no, it's because it's all foam. It's a lot of foam, and that's what we wanted. We wanted that aeration to build up inside there.
Oh, there's still quite a bit more liquid inside. Huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of foam.
I guess I never have done this before.
Do you know what I do at home to cheat?
What's that?
I use a blender.
Yes, and we're going to try that today.
Okay.
So this is the shaken Shakerato. We'll put that aside.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to do the other style that he does, his home style. And we're going to use the blender. All right, so now we're the.
Well, it's right there.
Oh, there it is. All right, so we got the blender, beaker. We're going to put about the same amount of ice. So that's pretty much more or less the same amount. Now, why are you doing the blender?
Well, it's all the Shakerato. It's all about the aeration, and if you get the temper of the coffee before you put it in there just right, you still get those little flecks of ice in the blend. It's really rare that I do that though.
But you really pulverize this though, don't you?
I put full speed, man.
Okay.
Yeah, warp speed, Zulu.
All right, so now we're gonna put the rest of it in here.
Yep.
I'm gonna cover that before I forget.
Oh, that'd be bad. You see how that color changed?
Yeah. Is that enough?
Yeah. All right, so look at the volume difference. Look how much air is actually inside there. And then the way the color changed instantly.
Well, because of the aeration, right?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so now we've got this. Now, I don't have any more martini glasses because I'm just not Dean Martin enough here. So we'll put that in a nice. Whoa, that looks like a shake.
Yeah. But it will settle. It will separate out. But you see it's already starting to. It's kind of like a nitro pour.
Yeah, but much more nitro than nitro pour.
Yes.
Fascinating. Yeah, you can start to see it starting to separate already right here.
Uh-huh. It's like the redneck nitro.
All right, so let's put those side by side so you can see.
Mm-hmm.
So you drink it just like this?
I drink it just like that.
With this much foam. All right, let's try this one first.
Of course, when I do it in a larger vat, and it kind of just it has time.
When you say larger vat,
for a larger thing, when I pour it out, it's like 24 ounces by the time I get
of that.
Yeah,
24. Wow.
Yeah, because I use the whole Bialetti, and so it's the same thing.
Man, that's like you know what that is? That's like a Slurpee.
It's awesome. But it's great to make it, sit outside and drink some coffee, and yeah.
Let's taste it. Huh? 3's just right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Nice sweetness. Sweet, but not like overtly sweet.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. COVID.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, here, you try this one then.
No, I know what that tastes like. Sort of.
Well, why don't you do me a favor? Grab the glasses over there. There's some glasses.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
I should have grabbed more glasses. I don't know why I didn't. All right, let's try this. All right, you have that.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll taste this. It's very like foamy. It's like drinking foam.
Yeah, it is very foamy. You really got, and for me, yeah.
But it's not a sweet.
No. But I'll go sit outside and kind of relax, and this will take, I'll drink this over the hour.
Hmm.
So over the hour, it becomes more like what we have in the martini glass.
Oh, it separates out and becomes more liquid.
Uh-huh.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Not bad, not bad. All right, we should be smoking because
Yes, yeah.
we're now 45 minutes into it and we haven't even lit up our cigar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, so here's the cigar for this evening.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So tonight we're smoking the Paul Garmirian. Where will this lock in? The Paul Garmirian. You know the one to do it. There you go. The Paul Garmirian Gourmet Series 3 30th anniversary short Robusto. And so it's celebrating Paul Garmirian's 30th year in business. He started in 1990 releasing the Gourmet Series cigar. So he had the Gourmet Series, he had the Gourmet Series 2. Then there was the 15th anniversary. And then there was, what else is after that? The Gourmet 2, 15th anniversary. And now the Gourmet Series 3, 30 years later. And he's had a couple releases on the way. Like did you try his other cigars?
I've never dove too deep into the PGs.
Oh, okay.
I've had them every once in a while, of course, it's always interesting when I go to a shop that's not in this area and they have them. I'm like, look, yeah, PG.
Nobody around here has it, do they?
Not really. There used to be more, but it's kind of cool when you go into a shop that's in like New York or so, and you find out there's the PGs.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cigar that presidents have smoked. Like W. Bush and Clinton were like big fans of his cigar, and so. But it's quite good. I mean, the Pellicosa Maduro is one of my all-time favorites, and so I always have like an interest in what Paul Garmirian's making. So this one is the short Robusto, right? And this one. Somewhere along here. So the short Robusto is 4.5 by 52, and they go for $15.90. I picked these two cigars up at the PG Boutique in McLean, Virginia. So they're $15.90. They're kind of a box of 25 cigars. So a box is just under $400, so $397. He also has two other sizes: the Bombones Extra, which is 3.5 by 46. And that's for $13 a stick or $3.25 a box. And then the Connoisseur, which is a 6 by 52 for $17.90 or $447.50 a box. So one thing is it's not cheap. Kind of like we talked about last week with, it's in that strata of like cigars that kind of give you the cigar price points that give you pause.
Yes,
at least give me pause. And
it's the hard part is, especially in some areas, you might not know that name that much, but it's got provenance.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
100% does.
Absolutely. Would you like? By the way, Emil. When I picked these up, I got these from Emil. He works for Paul. He gave me some matches. So matches excellent. For you. Yeah, some matches. We'll go. What are you cutting? Using what?
I use the Zycar.
Oh, yeah. Zycar. We're all using Zycars here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the wrapper is Ecuadorian Habano, and then it has Dominican binder and filler. It's made by the Occidental Cigar Factory in the Dominican Republic by Heinrich Kellner and Eladio Diaz, and blah, 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 all of that. But always a good quality cigar.
Yeah. Who else uses that factory?
Davidoff is a big
Davidoff
is the big one. Yeah, so Davidoff is like the main people there, I think.
Oh, good.
I mean, I've never been there, but
yeah.
What's got nice? This one has nice, I think, manure barnyard.
Little bit on, yeah. That's my favorite flavor descriptor. Like notes of barnyard.
Notes of barnyard. Very nice. That's very nice. Yeah. So like Kelsey, the PG is it's something that when I first learned about it when our friend Peter Gunn opened a shop here in Lutherville called Adam Leaf and Bean back in like 2002. And he brought Paul Garmirian in, and that's how I was first introduced. And I just thought his cigars, like, it's not at least the Bellicosa Maduro that I like the most. It's not the most powerful cigar, but I think it's got a lot of subtle flavors and spice and really good nuance. Mm-hmm. Just a beautiful cigar. I mean, I smoked that almost exclusively for like almost 5 years.
You know, but they're a great cigar. They don't put a lot into advertising, it seems.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not even.
I was trying to find links for the description for the show notes.
Yeah.
No Instagram.
Really?
No Twitter. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why is it so different? And actually, this cigar, their 30th anniversary cigar, like what I'm telling you, the information I'm telling you, I really had to dig. There's very, very little information about the cigar on the internet.
But it's kind of like
even Half Wheel had very like PR, like press release level like information.
But this brand, it's not like some brands that are that flash in the pan kind of thing. I mean, they stand on just pure, our cigars are that good.
Yes, absolutely.
So you don't have that. Sometimes you get that name. You're not just buying the cigar. You're buying the cigar because it has that name.
Right. Well, unlike other cigar brands, like even though he's been in the game for a long time, his quality has never like wavered. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of other brands, like they were talking about this at Cigar Authority, that like Nat Sherman for a long time. Nat Sherman was a house brand of their own company, built a great reputation, used to make beautiful cigars. Then there was a period where even Dave Groffel was saying that there was a period where they were just kind of like, very like discount oriented kind of cigars. And then they brought it back, but PG's never had that kind of.
No.
It's always been very solid.
No compromise.
Yeah, very much so. All right. So what else do we need to know about this? So Bud says Reserva. So what's Bud saying? Bud says Reserva Exclusiva came out to the Gourmet series too. That's true. The Gourmet series, I think, came out in 2001.
Okay.
I think.
That's when I graduated high school, Jay.
Oh, and then Tony says Davidoff has a separate factory. Occidental makes PG, Avo, Griffins, and others. All right. But Heinrich Kellner, I believe, is the unifying theme between the two, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I mean, for the most part, they're really not slouches.
No, not at all.
The tobacco quality that they're getting is on point. After it's settled a little bit, how is it?
Oh, it's nice. Definitely now that it's settled, the sweetness is coming out more.
Yes.
So the sweetness is equivalent.
Yes.
So that's nice to see. All right, let's light.
Yep.
Are you gonna use match?
I'm gonna use matches.
Use double match.
Oh yeah, double match.
Double match. I'm not good enough for double match. We didn't do a cold draw.
I did.
Okay, well, what do you... That's one match.
Yeah, he's better than I did.
It's pro level. This is pro level right here. Oh, you also so besides I'm using this ashtray here, but so last week Al brought this Cro-Magnon box and he made into an ashtray, right, with a metal insert. But this week he's you had finished to it, right?
Yeah. I got some
Look at that.
some Odie's oil and kind of put it over top of it. It was really easy to put on. Just kind of put just a little bit on there, buffed it right off, and that's just the natural. Now, I did sand it a little bit. I took it down to about a 320 grit.
That's a really nice curly.
Oh yeah, the box turned out
Curly
it
cedar.
looks beautiful. So yeah, it turned out great. So I've got a few other
Oh, hey,
boxes
you're
that
gonna
I'm
use that
probably
for
going to Right here.
Of course.
I don't know if I have the table locked down. We're going to find out in a little bit.
Oh yeah, just push it up. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
All right, so Tony does confirm that Keltner is the unifying between the two.
Okay.
Between the two. All right, excellent.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's starting off with, I think, with a good amount of flavor, a good amount of power,
Yeah.
some spice.
So we're going over what we're going to talk about today, and there's one thing that kind of came up that really jumped in my head,
Mhm.
and it's what he said when he actually blended the cigar. He said, let's see, it's in the notes there. He said that it's the strongest, or this was he, the smoothest strong cigar I've ever made, and that is really hard.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, anybody can make a strong cigar. You know, a complete powerhouse that's just balls to the wall. But to make something that's balanced, to give it that flavor, is not always easy to do.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I wonder how much though. Like now, granted, he did for his 15th anniversary release 15 years ago. He did do that was a cigar that was significantly stronger than the Bellicosa Maduro, the Maduro line, and the Gourmets before that. Actually, almost to the point at that time, I thought it may be too strong for me. But I wonder how much of like this year, this strength level, I wonder how much of that is a response to the cigar world trending towards stronger cigars.
That's a really good point. I mean, there has been a push. There's been a lot. I mean, I haven't been smoking cigars as long as you have. I don't really remember I was too young for the big boom.
Right.
Really.
How old are you, the big boom? 97.
97. I was, I think, a sophomore in high school.
Not too young.
So
Old enough to smoke. Yes.
But I like stronger cigars. You know?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, especially you like to smoke a lot of like Roma crafts. And Roma crafts are definitely on the stronger spectrum of.
Absolutely, and Neanderthal is one of my favorite cigars. Period. And this is exactly what I'll do on a night in the morning on a weekend. Is
Neanderthal and this.
I'll have hell yeah.
In the morning.
That's how I start the day.
Most guys are trying to start off with like light cigars, and he's like,
hell no,
power all the way.
Dude, you gotta try it. You gotta go for full body cigar, something, nice coffee. It's chilled. It's got a little sweetness to it. Really helps complement both of them. It's great to cleanse the palate and refresh the palate with the coffee and then the cigar. You do it right and listen to the world wake up. It's good.
I never had the time to do that. I need to find the time. Let me try that. I'll try that.
Well, sometimes, it's also, I've done it when, I was hunting. So, you have nothing that you're doing. There's no TV.
What, doesn't the
there's
smokes
no
chase away the deer?
Oh, when I say hunting, that means if a deer comes by the campfire, I might get a deer that year. So it's it's a lot more difficult to actually get a deer if you don't leave the cabin.
Oh, gotcha.
And the campfire.
That's always good. That's always good.
Yeah.
So what's everybody smoking out there tonight? Drop in the comments. Let us know.
Mm-hmm.
So we can compare notes.
Yeah.
We will be judging you on what you're smoking.
Really?
Well, I don't know. Why not?
Backwoods.
So how's it coming along? What do you think?
It is good. It's full-bodied, 100%.
Definitely full body. Definitely like strong, like tobacco leather.
Yeah. It had this one high note to it.
Like a brightness.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? Oh, Bud's smoking a 10-year-old Rolly. It's about time.
Oh. Did you
you know the story behind that?
A little bit.
So years ago, so those of you who are watching, our friend Bud, who's also watching tonight, he's talking about a 10-year-old Rolly. Well, years ago, he bought this. He was trying to buy, like, I don't know, cigars because he wanted to have some cheap cigars to smoke. And so Rolando Reyes made a line called the Rolly, and the Rolly were these bundle cigars, and they were like maybe $1, $2 a piece. And he bought a ton. I mean, he bought must have been like 50 bundles or some ridiculous amount, and he's keeping it in his house. But the batch that he got, like there was one batch that they got that they were quite good. They had good flavor and they were really nice. But then when he bought the big bundle, they were just kind of like nothing like the previous batch.
Yeah.
So man, he
smoked
these for like 2 years. And we're like, oh my gosh, man, that's just crazy.
Have you tried the retro hail in this?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you tried the retro hail since last week?
No. Oh no.
Oh, okay.
I never think I'm getting it right.
You know, when you have that stronger cigar, it's a much stronger retro hail. But when you blow it, go through your nose. But
does anybody get this? I don't.
It actually, it is really good.
No, it's good. This is good.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested to see how it might change as it works through. I know it's a Robusto, so you don't have necessarily the length to develop a lot of dramatic change.
Makes me kind of wish I got the connoisseur.
This is a good size.
But I wanted something in the middle. I thought maybe of the three, let's get the one in the middle, just as kind of like to kind of give the gauge for them all. Because the bombones are pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
Like I buy the Torito Maduro, which is a little bit smaller, I believe, or maybe a little bit bigger than the bombones. So the bombones are, what is it, 3.5 by 46, so it's pretty small. And when they cost $13 a piece, like, oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Dude, there's a little bit of a spiciness.
Yeah, there's definitely a good spice on this one.
Yeah.
Maybe like black pepper. Not too much black pepper.
No. Yeah. Pink peppercorns.
Pink. Nutmeg. Maybe nutmeg, actually.
Yeah.
So, Rusty, how's that Fratello Oro coming along? And the Bombay M, Kelsey, how's that doing? The M is what size? Do you know offhand? What is that?
No,
Is that like the Lancero?
No. I mean, I think the M is more of a series than it is a size.
Oh.
Yeah, because they've had a couple different sizes they come out with. And I'm not sure if I've had the M series yet.
So that's not the one with the floral looking band.
No.
Okay.
No, I can't remember the name of that, but I don't think it is. That's a Gaja? Gaja?
You mean espresso machines?
No. On the band. It begins with a G.
That's the name of
Mhm.
the guy.
No, the M. Bombay cigar that has that floral, not the floral band, but
Oh,
the
I don't remember.
other geometric design on the band.
Okay,
Kelsey he might be able to help us out with
they
that
might
one.
be able to. Maybe.
Yeah. But the M. Bombay with the white label, like you say, it's a great cigar. But if you want to see how a cigar can change with size, that is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Yeah.
The coffee goes well with it.
It does. So, can you taste the difference between the redneck version and the traditional version?
Let's see.
Of course, you have way more foam with the blender.
Yeah, but now it's pretty separated. So it is. There is a difference, but there is. Well, I don't know if that's maybe because of the shape of the vessel, but there is a difference. There is a difference. Like this one, the blender one, and I don't know if that's just a matter of it being a little bit different proportionally, of sugar to water and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is smoother. It's a more mellow kind of.
Okay.
Where this one is a little bit, maybe a little bit sharper, but also in these two cups, there is a temperature difference. This is still colder by several degrees than this small one.
Yeah. The one thing I do like about this is how it lays over top of the palate. It has a nice thick kind of finish that is very smooth as it washes over your palate. So, I don't want to be. I try not to have the blender going off at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I typically
that's not conducive to like marriage.
No. And so I try to just to keep this for the weekend.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Save your marriage that way. That's good. All right. So Kelsey says the M. Bombay M. Robusto is very sweet. Torpedo, it peters out a little bit, but still tasty. Another brand that really shows the difference in vitolas are the Aladino. Ooh, the Aladino. That is a good one.
Yeah, it's funny when you start. All right, when you first started smoking cigars, how much you looked at size. And now, even if I think we talked about this last week, even if it's a cigar that I want that moment, if it's not the right size, I might pass up. I'll probably pass up on it.
Yeah, like if it's a 6x60, you may pass on that.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I really try to. I don't smoke that many 6x60s, with so far the exception of the Grand Perfectos.
Right. Yeah, how those turn out?
The one box is gone, so I've had it. I got a total of 4 boxes.
You got 4 boxes?
I got a total of 4 boxes.
We should tell the viewers. Like, so, Roma Craft, for their 10th anniversary, they were having this thing called Weasel Fest that was scheduled for September 5th. And actually, Al and I were planning to go. We bought tickets to go, made flight arrangements to go down there. And then, like 2 weeks ago, because they've had a resurgence of the COVID in Texas, they decided to postpone the event until Memorial Day weekend, 2021. So, but part of buying a ticket is that it would also make you eligible to buy this tasting box of what's in the box? It's called the Catadores de Gran Perfecto.
Yeah, they're all Gran Perfectos. They're, I think, a little over 6 inches in length.
So Gran Perfecto is just kind of like a small Salamone?
No, different. Imagine like the Mode 5 Perfecto, just bigger.
Okay.
So you're going up to 60 ring gauge, and you're going just maybe 6 inches, maybe a little heavy, maybe 6 1/4.
Okay.
In length. But it's the full lineup. So it's the Whiskey Rebellion, the Intemperance BA, the Intemperance BC, the Aquitaine, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, Baca, and Wonderlust.
Oh, the Baca.
Baca. Yeah.
Baca in a large size. That's what we need to see more.
I don't think my palate was right for that at that moment. It was great, but I think personally, I missed out on some of the nuance of it.
Because you weren't ready for it.
Well, it's just something palate-wise, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
You mean that day or just in
that
general?
day?
Okay.
Yeah, that day. It was good. It was great, but I know it has more in it than what I experienced during that time.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So
you bought 4 boxes?
No, I bought 2 boxes, but then I took option 2. So when they rescheduled, we had 3 options. We either transferred our ticket over to next year.
I transferred mine.
Where we got all these swag packs that came in for that they're going to send out, or you went to option 2, where they sent you 2 additional boxes of the Grand Perfectos, and then they gave you the second swag pack, or you went to option 3, where they give you a $200 voucher.
I wonder how many people took the voucher.
I guess the people that never got back to them.
Oh, right.
Because, well, during the initial sign up, we had the option to buy, these boxes as a pre-sale.
Right.
So during the pre-sale, I bought 2 boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. I was looking forward to going down to Austin and having the barbecue, and
that would have been nice.
Getting to see the guys down in Roma Craft, because they're good people, hands down. They're good people, but I really, when I first saw them testing this size, I was like, ooh, I want that. And so being able to do the pre-sale, I was like, all right, I'm getting 2 boxes. And then taking option 2, I got another 2 boxes. And they're taking a lot of room up in my humidor.
Well, they are pretty big, so yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm going to try not to touch a whole set for at least a year. But
will you make it?
I think I can.
Okay.
I think I can. But I'm already, 2 cigars into the second box.
Dangerous. Dangerous. That's dangerous.
I know. It is.
But you still have 2 more to go after that. It's fine. It's fine.
Right.
Plenty of time for that.
And they're buried in the bottom of my box, so I kind of try to forget about it.
Yes, you gotta. Put that out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Let it go. Then remember next year.
Right.
So Kelsey was talking about that Aladino. Have you tried that Aladino?
No, I don't think I have.
So I've been listening to, of course, to Cigar Authority, that podcast, and you hear the advertisements for this Aladino cigar, and they talk about it on their show. And so I happened to go there last year to 2 Guys Cigars, and Jonathan was like, "Hey, you need to try this Aladino." So I got a couple of different Aladinos. Man, they are killer. They're killer. They're excellent cigars. Raul has them now.
Okay.
So
there's a couple of cigars that are out there that are like that, like the Atabes and the Lord Byrons.
Yeah.
But
those are a different price point.
Those are a big price point.
The Atabes are like, if you haven't heard about them, but the Atabes and the Byron are like, I believe $30 starting.
Yeah.
Per
like
cigar.
That.
So
yeah, they're a step up. But you hear about them, but you don't hear about them, and a little bit it's kind of like, I guess maybe this PG. It's standing on the merits of the tobacco more than it is the name of that's on the cigar.
Yes. Well, the interesting thing about PG is that, so when you go to the trade, and I haven't been to the IPCP or RPCA trade show, and it's been like 2 years, maybe 3 since the last time I went. I think the last time I went I didn't go last year. I went 2018. And the thing about PG, every year you go there, you see PG there, and he's at the PCA. You've got these cigar brands that have been there for 20 years, and some of them brand new, and they have really nice booths, really, really like nice, well done, but there's PG and there's Sun Kevork. And they basically have a table there's our table. These are our cigars. Nothing too crazy, nothing too opulent, just a simple statement. We make delicious cigars.
Mm-hmm.
you should buy them.
And it's something that if you didn't know, you would walk right past
You
and
walk
not
right
even
by
know
them,
it.
right by them. No idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really. I guess like he says, like he labels one of them the connoisseur series. I mean, I guess that's really what it is. It's for the connoisseur. If you're in the know, then you know.
Right.
If you know, you know. Hashtag if you know, you know. There it is. But this one's mine's burning pretty darn well. I mean, where's the? Will it lock in? There we go. So it's burning pretty well. It's got nice color. I tend to smoke a little bit faster than Al, so you can see a little bit of the.
You can see the difference.
The difference. Oh, let's see. This is Al's. I remember which one is whose.
Oh, what we can tell.
Come on, locking. I don't really want to listen. But you can see a little bit of difference. There we are.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
I'm not as fast compared to you as last week.
No.
I think I've tried to regulate.
Mm-hmm. You do have that one high side.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's solid.
Very solid. This is very solid smoke. So the first time I met PG was, I think, 2002. And I met him through Peter. And PG's a very much a raconteur. Like he's got all kinds of stories, and they're brilliant stories. They're amazing. You're just kind of like enraptured by what he talks about. You're like, oh, amazing. Like he'll tell you stories about him wooing his wife on a boat, rowing out into a lake, and singing her songs on his guitar. You're like, wow, this guy is just bananas. He's just bananas, right? And so but the first time I met him, he was like, we're having a cigar dinner at a place called Le Hall in DC. And Le Hall, if you're not familiar, was a French restaurant in Washington, D.C., a brasserie, really casual type of brasserie that kind of got some notoriety because Anthony Bourdain was the head chef of their New York location. And so Paul Garmirian had this dinner. He was having this steak dinner, anglais with shallot sauce, salad, frites, and the whole works. And he was serving his cigars. And so, at this time, you could still smoke in restaurants. And so he had this whole dinner planned. And so I was like, all right, let's go. We're going to go. We went down and had this amazing meal, amazing cigars, great stories, great time. And that's really the first time I met him. It was a great time. It was a great time.
But you're able to put that story, I mean, that built the experience with the brand.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was definitely one of the strongest experiences that I've seen in cigars.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how those life experiences tie into your brand. You know, that you...
I've lost my ash.
Hey, right. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Not a full defelice, just a partial.
Yeah, so there it's a little bit, I'm burning a little bit uneven.
Mm-hmm. But broke clean.
Let me adjust something on this camera. See if I can get that to work
better. I'll be honest with you. After I saw yours fall, your shirt, I was like, oh, I might have to knock mine off. Otherwise, I'll be next.
There we go. That'll be better. Okay, so now we've got. There we are. So it's a little bit. Yeah, a little bit uneven. So let's see if we can make it. I don't know. It's a little bit. You also see like it's a little bit dark on the rim. So it may have gone. It may have knocked it out.
Yeah.
It's definitely still in the center, but not on the edge. Maybe I will touch it up.
What's your thought about touching the cigar up?
What do you mean?
I mean, is it faux pas? I mean, I've seen some guys in the shop, they'll let that go so far, so long, that they'll then go right back up to the person at the shop and say, yeah, this cigar, something's wrong with it. And it's like, well, it probably has to do a little bit with you too. You know, it might not just be the cigar.
Yes, I can see that.
You know, I mean, okay, if a cigar is not rolled properly, of course it's going to do that. But, you know, there's a difference between trying to fight against doing that and then just not lighting it properly and then letting it do that on its own.
I agree with that. I think there is the big difference. And in modern times, I find it very rare to have cigars with real construction issues like that.
Well,
overall,
it's funny. The brands that I normally go to, I really find that the biggest hallmark that they have is build quality and consistency of the construction. You know, there's certain brands I really will not grab and smoke because of the inconsistency of the brand and the cigar.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe I'm not smoking enough outside of my wheelhouse.
No. I mean, there are cigars that some people really, you know, really like, but for me, the consistency of construction is just all over the place. And
any ones in particular?
Gurkha.
Oh, Gurkha.
Yeah, Rocky Patel.
Okay.
Alec Bradley.
You know, I've had a couple of different tobacconists tell me recently that I should try Rocky Patel. That they are no longer that.
That I dye my Maduro leaf so it looks dark.
Do they do that?
I don't know if they do that.
I know Onyx used to do that years ago, but
right. I don't know. The Rockies, this is the hard part. Maybe this is on me.
okay.
But unfortunately, from my past experiences, I'm much happier smoking other things than going back into that at this time.
Yeah. You know, I think it's one of those things where after so long of being of having a cigar that it performs a certain way,
right?
That nowadays it's like, do I want to spend my time and money taking a chance?
Yeah.
I think that's a very valid thing, especially for people that have smoked cigars for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that said, there are some people that really love their cigars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people we know, you know, in our group. So.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
You know, the most important thing is that you enjoy the cigar. Doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter my experience. It's what your experience is. So, hey, if you like it, man, that's fine. Now, I'm not the one to tell you that you're doing something wrong. You know?
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
100%. There's something I might like that you're not gonna care for.
Exactly.
You know?
How is this doing now for you?
It's smoothed out.
See, in my case, since I just retouched it, it's actually
Ramped up.
like it's gotten more forceful.
I mean, it's the flavor is big, but I don't have highs and lows.
Well, I think, but I did touch up the rim, so I don't know if that's why I was wondering, because like right now it's gotten appreciably like more strength than it was that whole time. So Rusty says, "Smoke if you got them."
That's right.
So how's that Oro, Rusty? How's that turning out for you? Let us know.
And beer preference.
Oh, yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Very true.
You're absolutely right.
Very true.
So,
but you're a big beer guy.
I don't drink a lot of beer, but I mean, for a large part of my work, it was beer. You know, I had
right.
You know, when I was working in the restaurant, I had to work with different beverage programs, and beer is a big part of it. And I enjoy a really good beer. When I was working in the restaurant, we had a great rep from Flying Dog. And she came in one time and she goes, "We're going to do a vertical." And she had their barley wine. She had this year's production of barley wine. She had another one from like 2 years ago. Then she had another one from like 6 years before that. And we did a vertical of the 3 beers. And man, there's such a difference in time. And that 6-year-old barley wine was fantastic.
So Kelsey's asking, who sells PG around here? That's a good question.
That's a very good question. That's actually I
No one.
I don't know.
No one. Like it's weird because like the one thing about PG is that, like we said, it's one of those things where it's kind of like if you're in the know, because I know some retailers have brought them in. Like Raul had it at Tobacco Leaf in Jessup several years ago. He brought them in, and unlike, let's say, Tatuaje or Padron, it doesn't have that widespread name recognition that those brands and other brands like that enjoy, or like, let's say, Perdomo even.
Yeah.
So people don't really know PG, and then the packaging comes in very, very, very simple cedar cabinet boxes. So they're considered cabinet 25, but they're just simple boxes. So the packaging isn't really eye catchy, and the band is very simple. So if you don't know, you've never tried it, I think a lot of people, and it doesn't have the hype that, let's say, even like now, like Romacraft has.
Yeah. Or even, I think Dumbarton would be also really
Dumbarton.
good. They're sitting at that same, even Dumbarton's sitting at that same price point, or a very, very similar price point. But I'll be honest with you, this is better.
Yeah.
Than a lot of those. But it doesn't have that Saka following.
Yeah, but one thing about Saka is also someone that is very active in social media, and just, I guess, in the consumer's end of the cigar industry, he's very visible. Mm-hmm. Where PG is very discreet, I would say, because you don't really see him out too much.
Right. It makes it really hard because when you go to a shop and you have you don't have that name recognition, and you see a $13, $14, $15, $20 price point, what is that going to do for you? Are you going to be inclined to take a risk? And is your tobacconist willing to take the effort to educate the customer and actually sell, rather than letting the customer just buy?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
I mean, I remember in one big occasion I remember, my friends and I were up in Philadelphia. We went to Holt Cigars. Yeah. And one of them was like, "Hey, look at that!" And they had the PG line. I don't know what happened, but maybe they didn't sell as many as they wanted to, so they were suddenly offering them at a steep discount to clear them out. I mean, we swept in there. We swept in. We bought a ton. We're buying left and right. It was just madness, because you're like, oh, PG at a discount. So if you know it, you're really going to go for it. But otherwise, it's hard. It is hard to find here in Baltimore. And Rusty's saying it's hard to find in New Jersey. I don't really know where to look in New Jersey. You might want to give them a call. If especially in Jersey, you might want to give them a call at the McLean Cigar Boutique in Virginia and ask them, hey, where? Because Paul works there, and Paul Kevork and Emil were there like pretty much every day. So when you call, you'll talk to one of them, and they'll tell you exactly who has their cigars out there.
Oh, yeah. I think Tony just chimed in and helped that nobody's really has PG locally.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had to go to Virginia to the boutique to get these. And I happened to do it. I had to go there for some other reason, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna go out of my way to the boutique because I heard he'd released these cigars. I wanted to get them.
Yeah.
And then Emil suckered me into buying more cigars. I was like, okay, I want these two 30th anniversaries. Okay, good. And then I want a few of the Bellicoso Maduro because those are my favorite. All right, good. And then there's Emil. We have this special on the Torito Maduros, 10 for like whatever the price. I was like, really? All right, let's go. Then like $200 later, it's like, oh crap. Will my credit card go through? I don't know, but let's try it.
That's funny. but it goes back to, sometimes for a shop, carrying that many boutiques is not easy.
Yes, agreed.
Because your sales staff needs to be educated and willing to educate the customer, and talk to them and listen to them. When for the short time that I worked at a cigar shop, I guess it also because my background with food and beer and drinks, the first question I would ask the person is like, well, what do you like to drink? Do you drink wine? Do you drink beer? Do you drink whiskey? What do you drink? And if they came back and they said, I like a good, I just drink Pilsners or whatever, that's a light bodied, very light, mild flavored beer. So I stayed in that mild range. If the person said, that they drank stouts or really heavy IPAs, that helped give me a little bit of direction as to what their flavor profile was that they liked to drink. Also how adventurous they were with what they were willing to try. If they only drank that one beer every single day, every single time, then, it made things a little bit different. But if they were drinking like all these other different small batch, small breweries and things, like, okay, maybe we can get a little more adventurous for selection.
Yeah.
So,
like if I'm going to have the Bozo beer, then there's a little more adventurous.
Yeah. No, so, Tony, you're actually right. It really does need that staff support, and I guess it's also it's hard to, with all the other different boutique brands that your store might be carrying that have greater name brand recognition, does it get lost in the mix?
No, that's a good question. That is a good question. I think that it does. I think it does. But like Tony pointed out in his comment, if you go to his boutique, he does have cigars from like 1999, old. I mean, and it's kind of funny because I believe, and I could be completely wrong, but I believe I don't believe that they run all their cigars every year. I think there may be 2 or 3 years between runs. So I think he makes a big, huge batch, ages them. Like this cigar, the 30th anniversary, the Occidental made this last year, I believe. And then they actually aged at the factory for 1 year before sending it to the United States to PG. So he really takes the time to age it. But you go to the shop and he's got his boxes and he's got this is the vintage from 1995. This is the one from 1999. This is the one from 2000, whatever. And he's got them signed and everything. It's really quite a presentation.
So how involved is he with the blending of it?
Oh, I think he's very, very heavily. If you know anything about him, he got his PhD in international politics and then was in Virginia. But during this time, he decided he was like a big cigar smoker as an amateur, like us. And then he decided that he was going to write a book, and it's called The Gourmet Guide to Cigars, that he released. He released that in 1990. But evidently, it took him 7 years to research it, and he did all this research in Cuba and everywhere that was making cigars. And it's really quite a book. I don't know if you've ever seen one. I have a copy from myself, and it's a fantastic resources. And so he wrote this book, and then through that writing, he met all these. My understanding is that he met all these industry people, and decided that he was going to make his own cigar. Where he started working with Heinrich Kellner and Diaz, and he really worked with them to create his blend.
Okay.
And I believe that every version that he's done the same thing, where he's really gotten deep, because he can really look at it in a very deep way with them.
Right. And that's one thing that I think we've started to see now too, which actually kind of frustrates me in some way. You have these brands that are out there that will go to the large factories and say, okay, what do you have for me? What's sitting on your shelf? And they'll grab that cigar, they'll slap their band on it, they'll give it a fun name like Thanksgiving Day Turkey, and only put it out once a year, even though it's just a house cigar. Right. Very likely there's probably some other tobacconist that's purchased the same exact cigar and put their name of their tobacco shop on that cigar. And here you think you're getting a special release that only comes out once a year, that's unique and special, and it's not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like a cigar shop doing a house brand, or you're talking about like actual brand?
They're actual brand that will. All right, well, let's say Viaje.
Okay.
All right. So he'll go to the different shops, and he's not really active in the blend itself. He has no vested interest in the blend trying to fit his profile, more or less.
Okay.
He's just going there. He's saying, "Oh, great, you have this." He's taking it back. He's throwing his name on it, and throwing like some kind of fun, quirky little band on it, and putting it out there. And he doesn't have. There's no core line. There's no standard. And it's just going through. Now, at this, the cigar, factories, it's likely that he's not buying the entire lot. They're probably producing it and selling it to somebody else. And that other person's probably putting their name on it as well. Mm-hmm. So what you think is a special edition, something that is, that's coveted, really
may not be. I see.
I don't know. It kind of irks me a little bit.
Huh.
I'm not a fan.
Okay. Not a fan.
Oh, what does Tony have to say?
Oh, so Rusty's asking, what's the name of the book? The book is called The Gourmet Guide to Cigars. Gourmet Guide to Cigars. I do believe that they have it on Amazon.
Oh, do they?
I believe. I will try to find it later. But so yes, it's only. Rusty also asked, it's only in Virginia. So yes, McLean. It's PG's in McLean in Virginia. It's only about an hour from here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want a road trip, just come on down. Let's do it. Let's go. I will try to remember to leave the credit card at home because it would
be dangerous.
Probably in my best interest. So Tony's saying what? PG, because with smaller production, also has the ability to use tobaccos that are great, but in smaller quantities that have been coming with. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's something that I find, like, even in the coffee side of things, like, because, like, let's say Spro is a very small company. Mm-hmm. If I go to a farmer, like, for example, if I go to Rusty's mom in Hawaii, in Kau, and I say to her, hey, we can do very small production runs that she's interested in. If basically how it works with her and me is that it's kind of whatever she is interested in doing that year, that's kind of off the wall, mm-hmm. that has very small production. That's what I'll go with that. And right. I think what Tony's saying with PG and then some of the real small boutique guys, that they can go to these places and let's say maybe they only have X amount of bales of certain tobaccos.
There's not enough to do a big production run.
Right, yeah.
So the big guys really aren't interested because they can't
supply them. Yeah.
They don't have enough of the supply. That makes perfect sense. It does. And it's tough because people like this and put that effort into it, you really sometimes don't know about it, and it shoots under that radar.
Like this is what you mean?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's interesting what you're saying. Going back to what you're saying about, the cigars and the manufacturers, is like that's one thing in interviews that I've watched with Skip Martin of Roma Craft, that he's talking about is like, Skip's for those who may not be familiar, Skip's in a different, Skip and Michael Rosales are in a different position where they actually have built their own factory in Nicaragua. So they control their production, and they can do, like he was saying, he has the ability to see the production on a daily basis, whereas a lot of brand owners, they're only coming down to the factories they work with, once every few months.
Yeah.
And they're only there for a week or 2-3 weeks, whatever it is. So if there's a problem, like in Skip's case, if there's a problem with production, he can be there that moment.
Right.
Whereas, let's say in his example, he used the example of Steve Saka. If there's a problem in Saka's production, he may not know about that until he goes down and starts sampling.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an advantage of having your own factory. And
absolutely.
I think people even like Nick Perdomo and all them have that same kind of advantage for.
And it's also like the Cro-Magnon, right? One thing I greatly appreciate is that he's not compromising on that wrapper leaf. He might only put, even though it's a core line product, it's a core line product that used to be really easily available, that now he only puts it out maybe a couple times a year, in core sizes, maybe a couple other specialty sizes. It's not as available as it was before. It's almost to the point where it's allocated to different shops. But to be honest with you, I greatly appreciate that. I look that because I know from this production to that production, the quality is going to be there.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. There's actually a pipe tobacco company that they just said, nope, we're done, and retired. Shut down the production, did not sell their recipes, didn't do anything. They just closed up shop.
Because they couldn't get any more tobacco?
Because they said it was getting harder and harder to find the grade of pipe tobacco that they wanted. And they were concerned that it wasn't going to be the same or to their standards. They weren't be able to produce to the standards that they wanted to. So they just retired.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Who was that?
McClellan.
Oh, McClellan just closed?
They just closed. Yeah. Mary and...
but is that also... Could that also be a factor that maybe pipes are not as popular?
I think absolutely. Trying to convince, somebody that's growing tobacco, especially domestically, one of the few farms that we want you to take this small portion of your field and really kind of devote a lot of resources to that one small thing so we can buy some of your tobacco. It's a tough sell. It's a really tough sell. And I think they were starting to feel that a little bit. They talked about some like Red Virginia that they were purchasing, that it just didn't. It was getting harder and harder to find the quality that they really wanted, and so they decided that it was time for them to retire.
Wow!
They closed up.
Didn't sell anything. Just closed.
Didn't sell the recipes. Didn't sell the production method. No. And I mean, there's a lot of people that really love that vinegary, ketchup-y signature. Because you open a tin of McClellan, and even if you looked at somebody that bulk tobacco, that used McClellan tobaccos in their bulk, as soon as you smelled it, you're like, oh yeah, you're using McClellan tobacco. You knew it right from the nose. And they didn't sell anything.
Wow. They
kept everything and closed up shop. Just retired.
They sold the inventory, or no?
The inventory was sold off. Okay. Yeah. But as far as recipes or, how they actually made that tobacco, they didn't share it with anybody.
Wow.
They just closed up. They say it has our name on it or it doesn't.
A lot of bummed out pipe guys must be.
Oh, what? You'll see tins now that maybe let's say it was like a 4-ounce tin. You might have paid, $35 for it, maybe $40 for it. If you were to go now and look for them, you might see that same tin for some of the more sought-after brands being like $100, $150. And
wow.
It's mellowed out some too.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if I have any at home.
It's probably, it might be aged.
I could use that $150 to buy more PGs.
There you go. See? That's how it works.
Making me happy.
But
so is yours still kind of because mine jumped in strength when I did the relight.
Yeah.
And it's still holding at that point.
I got a point where it changed and the flavor profile did change a good bit. It almost, I don't know how to really describe it. It's almost a little bit more like more florally and like a stronger, I don't want to say hay because it's not really, but it had something else.
Grassiness maybe?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
But it's some other kind of like plant vegetable, kind of like lighter tone almost, but it was a high. It was a high point. I don't know. It was. I was like, oh, what's that?
Oh, ooh, all right, all right. So, any questions or comments out there? Thoughts you might want to share? Let us know in the comments below.
So, Jay, when you're looking at, when do you decide it's time to maybe blend something different, or new blend? Are you looking at your inventory, seeing if there's a hole, and then looking for coffee to fit that hole, or is the coffee coming to you and you're saying, hey, I can do this with it?
It's more of the latter.
Okay.
We find coffees that are certain flavor profiles that give us an idea to work with. Then we may use that in a blend. But there's other situations where we may have a specific project in mind. Like, for example, when we started partnering with Fratello Cigars to do their Fratello coffee, that was something that we kind of talked about. And initially we were using coffees that we had in inventory and to develop the basic profile. And then after that point, it became a question of like going out with our producers and then having that coffee cultivated, the different components cultivated for that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, for example, like, let's say the espresso, the Heritage Espresso, right? This coffee. This one, like I said earlier in the show, the idea is we want an espresso that has nice cacao, chocolate kind of notes to it, with strong fruit, berry tones, and then nuttiness on the finish. So I'm actually looking at coffees with those components in mind to put together. In some years, like right now, this particular coffee is a blend of a coffee from Uganda called the Manafwa, which is produced in kind of like in the central part, probably about 2 hours outside of Kampala, in an area known as Jinja. So we use coffees from there, and that's got very nice chocolate components, a little bit of nuttiness to it as well. And then the other part of this particular blend right now is a natural processed coffee from Honduras that I found that has very strong berry tones to it. So we put those together. This particular one is in a 70-30 ratio right now. But every year is different depending on what we have. So some years, if maybe, like, let's say one of the coffees we're using, let's say it has the chocolate note, but maybe doesn't have quite that nuttiness in the finish, maybe we might look for something like from Sumatra or Papua New Guinea that has more of an earthy character, and we'll blend that a little bit into it to kind of craft that.
Okay. So, all right, adding a little bit to build that profile that you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what about using not Robusta?
Robusta?
Yeah, Robusta.
Yeah, Robusta. Yeah, Robusta, yeah. Robusta. Yeah, so Robusta is an interesting one. That's one that's, so in the world of coffees, the two major varietals of coffee are known as Cafe Arabica and Cafe Robusta. Robusta has a higher percentage of caffeine and is more readily produced around the world. So a lot of coffees in Brazil, a lot of coffees in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, or Robusta coffees, and as well as in India. And they have a lot higher concentrations of caffeine, so they're stronger. They also, for espresso making, they tend to produce more crema, more of that foaminess, right? Yeah. So, but the other side of that is that compared to Arabica, it's a lesser coffee, meaning that the quality level of Robusta isn't typically equal to Arabica. Now, there have been producers around the world. One of them is one of that comes to mind is this guy in India, who have been focusing on specialty level Robusta. So they've paid a lot of attention to cultivation and how they process, and they're producing really high quality Robustas. but we tend not to use too much of that.
Right. Is it graded the same way as
It's graded similarly.
Okay.
It's if you look at the grading scales for Robusta and Arabica, they're slightly different. Mainly, that I think that has a lot to do because Robusta has traditionally been used in more commercial coffees where there's a lot more taints in the coffee. And like, what I mean by taints is that a lot of times you'll have these taints in the coffee because of the way it was processed. So a lot of times coffees in these parts of the world, when they lay them out to dry, they may be laying them out to dry on the street or on and God knows what happens. Trucks drive by, they can have petroleum characters to them. And they're also harvesting, they're doing non-selective harvesting for a lot of Robusta. So that means that they'll come to the tree and a coffee tree will have let's say a bunch of coffee beans. And the really ripe cherries of coffee are red and crimson. And then through that, so they start green, they go from green to yellow to orange to red and then crimson and then to rotting. A lot of these places, because they're doing for commercial, they want more efficiency, they want just volume. They'll let the tree reach a point, and then they'll strip the tree completely.
Okay.
And so all that gets mixed in, and whereas in especially Arabica, our producers are waiting for the cherries to turn the perfect shade of red or crimson, and then they'll selectively harvest off of that tree. So whereas in a lot of Robusta or commercial production, they'll strip the tree at one time. In our case, with our producers, the pickers may visit that tree like 7 times throughout a harvest season to fully strip the tree.
Okay.
Because as those cherries become ripe, then they get picked, and
Right.
then they wait and they get picked again.
So a lot more labor intensive.
A lot more labor intensive.
Cool.
But when you look at commercial Robusta, like I've got some samples in the back where you see a lot of what we call taints or defects in the coffee. Like there are these things called all blacks or just blacks, and you look at some of these and there's all kinds of defects and debris, and it's really interesting. Like I actually have a hard time getting these samples because pretty much all of my producers don't have that. I mean, you can get them, but but so I would have to go to national organizations. Like I'll go to like the UCDA, the Uganda Coffee Development Authority in Uganda, and I'll ask my friends, I said, hey, do you have samples of this commercial grade coffee? And they'll give it to me like a pound or two just so that I can have a sample of it. But it's when you compare the two, there's a tremendous difference between them.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny you say that.
That's a good idea for a video.
What? Oh, grading?
Well,
we're looking at
the comparison of the two coffee. I'll have to make that.
See? Yeah.
All right. All right, let's see here. Rusty asked, have you ever thought of doing a food, coffee, cigar pairing dinner for a complete experience?
I've done that a couple times. When I was working in the restaurant, I had the privilege to kind of say, hey, let's put together a dinner. And both places where I worked, we had nice outdoor patio where we're willing to kind of permit smoking on that patio for a special event. So the first one I did was back in 2014, and I did the bacon and bourbon cigar dinner. Okay. And this one, we had our dinner, and then after dinner, we went out to the patio, still had a couple drinks, and just kind of sat outside and had some cigars and just enjoyed ourselves. But that dinner was paired with, I learned a lot from that dinner because I did 4 different bourbons and I made 4 different cocktails. And then each portion of each thing had bacon in it.
Huh.
So we did, let's see if I can try to remember everything. For an appetizer, we did a bacon wrapped Scotch eggs that were cooked over a cedar plank. And then we did a slider course where we had 3 small sliders, and all 3 were slightly different, but all 3 of them, we used pulled bacon. So we actually got a pulled bacon. So we got a slab of Newski's bacon, And we portioned off a section of it, and we slow cooked it so it got so you just pull it apart. And then so we just pulled the bacon and then topped the sliders with pulled bacon. Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds amazing.
And then we did a rockfish stuffed with crab with bacon.
Nice, nice.
And then for dessert, we did a oh gosh, I think it was just something simple like bread pudding, but we made a bacon caramel chocolate chip ice cream, and that was stupid good. So I paired for that first one. I worked with a distributor and their profile rather than working with one distillery group and their profile. So we had see if I can try to remember. We had, of course, Greenbrier, Nelson's, their bourbon, which at the time it was just Bellmead, is what they had, which is a fantastic high rye bourbon, and they have a great story with it as well. We used the James E. Pepper, which is another high rye bourbon. Gosh, I'm having a hard time. I'd have to look back at I still have the menu,
That
saved.
sounds amazing.
I'd have to look back and see the other two bourbons, but I remember making a Sazerac. We made a old fashioned, and then we've kind of finished up with a coffee, kind of cocktail with bourbon. Now the second one we did was more like, actually no, there was three. The second one I did was with Diageo, and so we focused all on the whiskeys that Diageo had. So there I branched out. Instead of doing all bourbon, we had a Tennessee whiskey. We did Bullet Bourbon. We did they had the Orphan Barrel series. So we did a selection from the Orphan Barrel. And then we finished up with a Scotch with Talisker, which is a major component of the of like Johnny Walker.
Oh.
Is mostly they use a lot of Talisker in that blend. And that was presented by the Master of Whiskey that Diageo had. So it was really great experience with him. He talked about the different whiskeys in production. And for him, it was cool because everybody's sitting outside. We're all smoking cigars, and he's going through this whiskey thing. And he comes back to me and goes, "Man, this is some really old school stuff. You don't see this, that much, where you go there and you just have a whiskey and cigars, and everybody's eating, drinking, and smoking at the same time."
Oh man, that's a nice way to do it.
Now, the last time I did it, it was with Brown Foreman, and I really became a big fan of Brown Foreman. I started before this, but this really kind of cemented it. And unfortunately, the weather kind of worked against us a little bit, so we weren't able to do the whole thing outside. We kind of did it inside, and then afterwards we tried going outside and trying to enjoy some of the cigars that we had. But that one, we walked through their lineup with the Whiskey Row series from Old Forester. We, of course, got into Woodford, and we kind of went through the different tastings and the notes that we found in those whiskeys. Now, for that one, I went back to the original bacon and bourbon dinner, and we used Taharka Brothers bourbon ice cream and put the bacon, chocolate chip, and caramel into the bourbon ice cream. And that was damn tasty. Damn tasty.
Well, that sounds great. The ones that I've been to were more straightforward. But we did that one with the Paul Garmirian years ago, and that was just smoking with steaks.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, like, what's it? Raul from Tobacco Leaf here in Jessup, he does that once a year or twice a year. He puts up a dinner at a Ruth's Chris, a local Ruth's Chris here that has outdoor seating, and you can smoke. But years ago, after the PG dinner that we did at Lay Hall, at that time, Lay Hall was a place where you could smoke at the bar. So we actually would go there and there were times we would go there weekly.
Yeah.
But that's a wonderful thing. You just get to sit there and smoke and have a cigar and a steak, and you eat. It's just decadence, just fantastic. But
Right.
those are no longer the days. So
Every once in a while, some things like that come up, but it really is sometimes hard to organize. You have to have the willingness from your distributor to have somebody come out, and be that educator for the whiskeys. The cigars are sometimes it's hard to pair the cigars exactly for that and work with that group. You don't always have that luxury, and then trying to tie that in with the food. So, each one of the three that I did was a pretty good success. But there's a lot that to try to go into it.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear that story for the Nelson brothers?
No, I don't believe so.
Their bourbon, the Greenbrier, or their Greenbrier distillery, Nelson brothers are the brothers that opened the Greenbrier, and Bellmead was their first whiskey they came out with.
Okay.
And Bellmead is a MGP product, so it's not their own juice they're using to make it. They're purchasing the barrels, and then they're blending it, or they're themselves, or telling them to blend it per their recipe. Sometimes they'll do some other barrel strength, or they'll do some finishing, but their story behind how it started is really great. That was just a capital builder. It was a way to build capital so they can make their own juice. And they're just now starting, I believe, within the last year or so, bottling their own Tennessee whiskey.
Oh.
All right. So the way the story goes was that their great-great-grandfather decided that they were going to move from Germany to the United States. So he converted all of his assets to gold. And he got this special coat that had all these pockets in it. And he's wearing this gold coat. And on the voyage over, there was a storm. And he fell overboard wearing this heavy coat.
Oh, shit.
And he didn't make it.
Can't imagine why.
I know. But he also lost all their assets. So they moved in town. They ended up settling in Tennessee. And they started, his son was now the man of the house. So he started all sorts of odd jobs. He started working at a butcher at a general store. He ended up buying the general store. But they did everything. They cut their own meat. They roasted their own coffee. And then they also started making their own whiskey. Now, if you talk to the Nelson brothers, it was their biggest customer was the Maxwell Hotel for coffee. So they like to say that it was
the Maxwell House.
Yes. That their coffee was what became Maxwell House. But their whiskey production is really what caught on. And before Prohibition, they were producing about 2 to 3 times the amount of whiskey that Jack Daniels was producing.
Wow.
But Prohibition in Tennessee actually came across earlier than it did nationally. And when it came across, his great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother just said, I think it's time just to close. So they shut down the distillery. Now, these stories were in their family and their past, and they didn't know too much about it, but, they kind of knew a little bit of it. So one day his dad took his 2 sons with him, to go pick up half a cow they ordered from a butcher. And so on the way down, they passed a historical marker saying former site of the Nelson Greenbrier Distillery. They're like, Nelson, I wonder, that might be our family's old distillery. So he started talking to the butcher. And the butcher said, oh, yeah, if you go down this road, back through this trail, the spring house is still there.
Wow.
So they go down there, they find it, and then the water is still running clear and clean through that spring. And they reach down, they tasted the water, and it's like a light bulb went out off in their head. So at that point, they started researching a little bit more, looking back, trying to find those old recipes and original. And now with their Tennessee whiskey, it's as close as they've been able to find out for traditionally what they were producing prior to Prohibition.
Wow.
So, you know, they like to say, don't drink like your granddad, drink like your great-great-great-granddad. So
That's excellent. Actually, you know what we should do is we should get you, Rusty, to come down because Rusty's actually a chef.
yeah,
He's a chef, so we should get him to come down, and we should do a dinner.
that'd be nice.
That'd be kind of nice.
That would be nice. Absolutely.
I wonder if we could get it at the Elks.
Possibly.
I wonder if they'd let us do that there.
I don't know.
Because we got the deck to smoke in.
Yep.
They got the kitchen.
Yeah. You're the member, my friend.
I'll have to ask him about that. I'll ask him about that. All right, I'm kind of to the end.
Yeah, I think you're more than kind of to the end, buddy.
My fingers are actually burning.
You're holding on to it by the cap.
Yeah, very narrow part of the cap.
Yeah.
Which really shows again how good of a cigar this is because it's at this point, it's still got all the strength, all the flavor,
Yeah.
and had throughout the entire run.
And that one note
And I would like to
change-
continue. And my fingers really are burning. They're really.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough. I had to stop.
I think my burns changed a little bit, but that also could be part of me just talking too much. Not
That could
paying
be,
attention
that
to
could
it.
be, that could be.
So
Yeah, well, you've been talking. I've been smoking.
yeah. Plus, I don't use matches too much for at all, whether it's for pipe tobacco or for cigars. So
Well, you know, I've got a lot of matches still. I found a whole box of matches, but I think I need to go through them. But my conundrum is also that these are matches from that I've had over the years, and from places that no longer exist, like tobacco shops, like faders. I got some faders ones, and it's like, do I want to smoke all these, or do I want to burn all these? Or should I keep? I probably should just burn them because they're taking up space.
you know what's always nice? Okay, it's nice getting cigars matches like this. And one thing I noticed when I pulled out this match, if you look at the bottom end, you can see that it's crimped,
Right?
you know, and so it's something that's a little bit different.
Oh, yes.
And you go to some shops and they'll give you the long matches, and you're like, "Woohoo!
Okay.
They got the long matches."
Well, have you ever seen those Davidoff matches? The long Davidoff.
The ones that are
ones?
that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I used to work in the movie business, and that's what I did for like 12 years. So I was first introduced to those matches because we were in 1997 or 1998. I was working on a movie called Enemy of the State. And the director of that movie is a guy named Tony Scott. And Tony he's the brother of Ridley Scott, right? And they're both directors, both British. And Tony was a great guy. He was a great guy to work with, a great personality. Actually, he was the best director I've ever worked with. And I've worked with a lot of great directors. But Tony, he loved Monte Cristo No. 2 Havanas.
Okay.
Loved them. To the point that he smoked Monte No. 2 Havanas all day long, all on set, for the whole time. Like, whether we were starting at 6 a.m. or 5 in the afternoon, from the time that we started to the time that we finished, he smoked Monte No. 2s nonstop. And he had these Davidoff matches. And I remember we're on set when he's like, and we're talking, and he's like, "These are the best matches. You need to use these matches. These are the best ones." And I was like, "Really?"
Mm-hmm. It's like the Swan Vistas.
Oh, they were fantastic. They're like, I don't know if they really were cedar, but they were colored like a cedar stick. But they were. I used those for quite a while. But
yeah, I know. I remember I was traveling and I was in Dallas, Texas, and not far from Love Airport is Blue Smoke, and you know I just got done on the road, or you know I was like, either I wait in the airport or I go to a cigar shop and then go to the airport. And so I was just kind of like, screw it, I got some work to do. I'm going to the cigar shop.
Yeah.
So I make my purchase, and the guy goes, do you want some matches? And I was like, nah, it's all right, because I normally don't use matches. And then I saw they were the long matches, like, oh, I wonder if I could take those on the plane even. But you can. So I've got a couple of the long packs from there. And every once in a while, you'll get into a shop and they'll have Drew Estate does a couple of long cigars. I really don't think they're cedar, but it's something different when you get a match in your box, or you get a match at the purchase. And it's the long ones. You're like, ooh, like score.
Actually, like with these matches, with these PG matches, when I was at PG, Emil was like, "Hey, do you need matches?" At first, I was like, he was like, no, well, okay, let's have some. And so he gave us, but actually, when you're talking about this airport thing, reminded me when earlier when we were talking about like construction issues with cigars. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this back then, but it reminded me of this time I was actually I was flying.
Bud says you can't see me because it's focusing on martini glass.
Let's move that other way. Sorry about that, guy. But I remember that I think I was in Istanbul, and I was coming back to the U.S. and I got diverted to London for whatever reason. But I ended up being in London I was going to be there for 12 hours. So I was like, do I chill at the airport at the lounge? Mm-hmm. But I got 12 hours. Yeah, I can go. I was thinking I could just jump on the tube, because at Heathrow you can just jump on the tube and take it all the way to Central. I could jump on the tube, go down to Mayfair, and go hang out at
Fox's.
At Fox's. Yeah. So that's what I did. I got on the tube, went all the way down to Central, got out at what I think it's not Piccadilly, whatever the stop is after Piccadilly. You get out there and you're at Mayfair, and you walk over there. So I bought this cigar, and I don't know if you guys ever go to London. They have Cuban cigars, and Fox is like the oldest tobacconist in London. Mm-hmm. I believe they actually started in Ireland and then they moved there. But they've got this, and so there's the main floor when you walk in, and then upstairs they have a lounge. So you go into the humidor, and I usually, if I go to London, I'll look for whatever is like unique, like a country exclusive that they have for Cubans, and they had this one cigar, some Robusto or whatever it was. And man, their taxes are super high. Like this cigar, when I converted from pounds to dollars, it was equivalent to $55 for this cigar. Right? So I go upstairs, I start lighting the cigar, I'm starting to smoke it, but this thing is burning like a dog. Like it is off, it is completely messed up. Oh, and there's part of you that's kind of like embarrassed, like you don't want to like say anything. Right. But I was like, well, jeez, this thing costs $55. I need to go say something. So I went back downstairs, right? And I talked to this one guy, and he's actually of Cuban descent. I forgot his name now, but I was like, hey, I'm sorry, but there's a problem. It's tunneling and like canoeing. It's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And it just tastes terrible. And I was like, yeah, I'm really, I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, so after a while, he was like, well, no, it's okay. I'm glad you said something because we're happy to replace it. And he said to me specifically, like, I know you're not British. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because a British guy would never say anything. He would just suffer with it. I was like, yeah, well, I'm American and I don't make that kind of money. So if this is $55, I need to like, but they happily replaced it. And the second one was perfect, but nice. But I was like, oh, for $55, man.
Right. That's one thing that caught me because I had a layover in Heathrow once. And, I was working with the euro and everything else. And all of a sudden you're in Heathrow. And unfortunately, that credit card spends just as well there no doubt. Until you get the conversion and you're like, oh, this set of mittens cost what? Because, my wife, she's younger than I am, and she was really big into Harry Potter. And you go in there, they have the Harry Potter store and everything. And you're like, all right, well, she'll like, I got to get her something from the Harry Potter store, right? And then I later see my bank statement, I'm like, huh, those mittens and scarf? Oh, I hope you really like these.
Exactly. You're like, quit. It's all right. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. But yeah, I was happy dealing with the euro. Not as much with the pound.
Yeah, because it's like $1.75 per pound.
Yeah, it's
pretty high. It's like
Right.
Holy moly.
Exactly. So I got to admit, I have a question for Bud.
Okay.
All right. I'm kind of wondering if he's in his room watching us on the big projector with everybody else in his room watching on the projector while they comment individually to us.
Yeah, so for those of you who are watching that are Bud and Tony, you see in the comments, they're actually part of our normal cigar group here. And most nights we actually go to Bud's house, and he's got this cigar room with a 10-foot screen, 10-foot video screen. It's quite impressive. You're like, oh my gosh, man, this place is crazy.
Yeah. And so I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, who's with you tonight, Bud? Who's with you?
Yeah. Or is the Faders North been stricken by COVID as well?
So speaking of COVID, have you smoked more or less?
That's a really good question. I may, if anything, maybe a little bit heavier, but I'm also not really going to the shops like I was. I normally go, at least once a week to a shop in the area, maybe more. And I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking in my box, and I'll try to get a few sticks in, whether it's through trying to stop in at different shops or picking something up, from the internet that I can't find here. And, I'll smoke the everyday stuff. And then it's like, I really didn't want to smoke this right now, but I'm going to, and when it's the weather's like it has been, when it's hotter, it's humid. I don't really grab my pipe first.
Okay.
I've got at home, I've got more than enough pipe tobacco. I wouldn't have to buy any more pipe tobacco for the rest of the year, probably more, if I just, smoke pipe tobacco. But also, some of those tins, I really don't want to open those tins right now because they're going to do, they're sitting there doing happy things.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, aging pipe tobacco is way easier than aging cigars.
Oh,
yeah, because it's in a tin. It's sealed. You take it, you throw it in the closet, and it just does it. You're not, okay, what's my temperature? What's my humidity? Okay, all right, yeah, everything's happy, everything's good. You don't have to worry about that.
Does that change once you open it?
Yeah. Once you have that exchange of air, the aging process stalls, and then even if you seal it, it's going to change. It's not going to age as fast. It's also dependent upon, what kind of cut it is. A ribbon ages differently than a flake, which ages differently than a plug. And that goes to how dense the tobacco is packed. If you have a whole bunch of loose ribbons, you're asking each individual ribbon to age, and then you're waiting for those, microbes or, things in the air to react throughout each individual piece. When it's compressed together, you get a little bit more uniform. So going to a plug, it's a lot more better. Yeah. What's Tony got on there? Oh yeah, okay.
Sealed boxes and cabinet form just as well.
They do. I don't have a cabinet, Tony. Sorry. But yeah, absolutely. I can see that would make the aging process a lot easier. Oh, Tony and Dave.
Oh, just Tony and Dave. Oh,
Nice. Well, thank you guys for watching.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Because I've got this I don't smoke pipes very often at all, and I have this one tin that I got. Actually, I got it from the trade show years ago, maybe 2015, and it's one of the.
Sorry, I've given up on the
Yeah, no
matches.
worries. It's one of the Tsuki Drew Estate Summer Blend.
Yep.
And I opened it when I first got it, and I smoked a little bit, and I still have it, and the ribbons definitely feel dry now.
Yeah, well, it's been open, so
yeah.
Once you open it, the seal changes, and then the seal's never quite the same. And then you've added that extra little bit of air to it, which starts to dry. So when I rotate my pipe tobacco, I'll I'll go to like a 2-ounce can, and I'll open it, and I'll smoke it, and if it's something I like that I buy in a larger quantity, I put that into a mason jar because that mason jar has a much better seal and it'll keep a lot better. Plus, I'm not, even if I take it, I'll take that tobacco from the mason jar and then take a little bit at a time and put that back into the tin. So I'm not constantly going into that mason jar and opening the mason jar. I still may maybe open that mason jar every once in a while. So I try to rotate through there, and it ends up keeping the humidity a little bit better, and still allows tobacco to do some happy things while I'm smoking it.
Oh, okay.
But once you pop the tin open, you instantly change the properties of it. It doesn't age. It still ages, but not on the same curve. So. So, I don't even. Do you know about the tobacco press?
I've heard about this.
Okay, so typically, when I mentioned ribbon, flake, and plug, right? So plug is layers of tobacco. They're all put under pressure and held under pressure until it maintains its shape, and it looks like a freaking brownie. Okay. And what they'll take that plug and they'll cut that plug into flakes, and they'll put that in the tin, or they'll leave it as a plug, or they'll rub it out completely to the individual components, and there'll be a ribbon cut. That's pretty much the three basic. So they decided that wanted to try their own blending, and when you put it under pressure, you're adding a little bit of heat, and you start to jumpstart that anaerobic kind of reaction a little bit. So the flavors completely change when you put it under pressure. So Bud and Nate, some of the other guys said, hey, a little bit of pressure is good. What does a lot of pressure do? So they got a freaking, I don't know how much pressure they're able to put in this thing, but enough to kind of like have the tobacco start to squirt out the sides almost.
Oh, wow.
And just put this thing under a lot of pressure. And it's just a fun thing to kind of experiment with.
So did it really change the character of the tobacco?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You change a lot of the characters of tobacco. Even there's some guys that will bake the tins. They'll
bake.
Yeah, they'll take the tin, the sealed tin, and they'll set their oven to like maybe 180, like something really 160, something really low, maybe even crack the door open, and they'll put the tin inside there, and they'll let the tin kind of just chill in that warmer environment, and that will jumpstart the reaction. And it sometimes there's nothing to replace time. Time does things that you cannot cheat, but baking it, you kind of start to get some of the same characteristics that time would produce by adding heat to it. So it changes the tobacco 100%.
Now, you mentioned earlier when you're compressing tobacco, it creates an anaerobic environment. Does that also promote some kind of fermentation?
I would believe so.
Okay.
Especially, you're looking at tobaccos like Virginias that are way different than cigar tobacco, and the sugar concentration in those is way higher. So where a cigar, I know there's mixed schools of thought with it, but you look at how a cigar would age and plateau, and 5 years, 10 years, you're not really going to go too much crazier. The cigar has a lifespan. There's certain Virginia tobaccos that will age 20 years, 30 years.
Wow.
I think the oldest tobacco I ever had was like 80 years old. And okay, that one wasn't perfect environment, and it tasted like grandpa. But I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting.
Speaking of 80 years old cigar, I had this one cigar. We were at an event at the Tobacco Leaf again, and this guy offered us cigars that were 77 years old, Nazi era cigars, like actually from Germany with Nazi stampings on it.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was crazy.
Because the Nazis didn't like tobacco. Did you see Bud's post?
No, what did he say? First patch turned into paper.
A little too much pressure.
A little bit too much.
Yeah. And Tony, yeah, you're right. It kind of would be the same as a pilon would be for aging fermentation room.
But if it's like that with the fermentation, do you need to rotate it somehow? Like in a pilon, they will rotate it over time.
So, do you know that much about Perique?
Not too much.
Okay. So Perique is a condimental tobacco used for pipes, and actually now it's also used in some cigarettes. But Perique is from a very small graphical area in Louisiana called St. James Parish. It's like a 3 square mile triangle where it actually is the true Perique. And what they'll do is they'll take this certain strain of Green River Burley, and they'll put it into old whiskey barrels, and they'll use railroad jacks, and they'll compress that tobacco. And every once in a while they'll relieve the pressure, and they'll rotate the tobacco, and they'll pressurize it again. But you'll see, to the point where you start to see tobacco juice dripping out from the barrel.
Okay.
But it does go through some rotation and change. But the tobacco gets this. It's really strange. You wouldn't necessarily smoke it straight. But depending upon how it's blended, sometimes it adds like pepper flavors. Sometimes it adds like a plumish, almost like fruit notes. But depending upon the ratio, it changes how the flavor goes. And it's very much it's a condimental. It's a salt and pepper.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking maybe a blend that has 5%, maybe 10% has a lot of Perique in it.
Oh wow. Okay.
So but then you have certain, blends like the Beast, which was a blend that Cornell and Deal did to kind of pay homage to Aleister Crowley.
Okay.
Because apparently he smoked straight Perique and he's bat crazy. And that's what he did. So they made the Beast was like, it was over 50% Perique that was like soaked in rum. And
wow,
I did not get a tin of it. So I have no idea what it tastes like. I have no idea what it is, but it's one of those ones every once in a while, a tin will show up and it's just, where somebody will show up that they have it in their collection and it's just one of those things.
Oh, interesting. Well, I don't know if you've seen that the Philippine cigar company, Tabacalera.
Yeah.
They created that 1881 with Perique.
Have you ever smoked it?
I have.
What did you think?
I know the owner in Manila, and so I tried it with him one day. Really interesting. Like it's been a long time since I've had it. It's been like maybe 4 or 5 years. But I recall it. I want to say it's kind of a smoky-ish character.
Uh-huh.
But it's definitely very unique. I don't recall exactly anymore, but it's a very unique flavor, a very unique and curious flavor in a cigar.
Yeah. I mean,
because especially since Tabacaleras they're a very mild cigar, so they've kind of punched it up with this Perique.
Oh wow, yeah, it probably would. It'd be interesting to see how that does. There was a batch or a barrel that Cornell and Deal got that was 18 years old, and they just blended out, and the Perique had kind of on its own kind of started reaching its peak a little bit, but it's just interesting to see how it is because the production of Perique is extremely low, and there's a point where it almost got lost forever. And it was actually cigarettes that saved it because American Spirits started using it, and they found a market for it where before there was no money in it. So we still do have it today, but there's a lot of what we have today is not necessarily from that St. James Parish. Sometimes you're getting, Acadian Perique, which is, from elsewhere. It's not that true Perique. So trying that 18-year-old Perique was kind of like going back to real Perique, what Perique was. So.
Oh, Tony says he misses the old Florida Isabella from Tabacalera. That was a very nice cigar. Very mellow, very nice constructed.
I never really dove into their stuff too much. Even the free cigar.
Okay. Yeah, well, they're a little bit hard to get too.
Yeah.
They're not as well distributed in the United States anymore. Actually, that was my very first cigar in like 1992.
Oh wow!
I got a box of these Coronas from them, and I was like, "Oh, I'll smoke it." I still have the box somewhere.
Do you?
Yeah. I never smoked them all.
Oh, that's funny. You still have some of those from 1992.
Yeah.
You know, what about what you smoked in the boom to what you smoke now? Of course, the cigars have changed in flavor profile overall, but
Double Chateau Fuentes, because
Yeah.
back then Fuente was still very relatively new.
okay.
So 1995, 1997, Fuente is very new. I think back then you would, if we were to use terminology from today, Fuente back in that era was considered the boutique. They were the ones that were smaller and more unique and very different. So we did that, and then also the other boutique would be Ernesto Carrillo's La Flor de Cubana.
Okay.
So they had the Robusto shape was called the Wavel, and that was something that was really highly sought after. Actually, it's interesting. Like, I still have some boxes from that era, and like the prices are like you just couldn't like $1.90 for a cigar, $2. And if you got the $5, it was like, well, that's a lot of money, right? $5 a lot. And I remember that I have a bundle. So when 1997 came and the tobacco boom was like at the height, and everything was very scarce, the La Gloria Cubana Wavels was one of the most sought after cigars. And I found a bundle at a place here in Baltimore called Max's on Broadway. So back then, Max's had a cigar shop.
Yeah.
Ron Furman was really into cigars. And so he built his own cigar shop. And I bought a bundle, and I still have the bundle. I've never opened the bundle.
Really?
Because I spent so much money on it at the time. It was astronomically priced because it was like, at the height of the boom, you couldn't get them. Cigars were still very green. They were they were mass produced and underaged. So I never opened this bundle, and the bundle has a price on it, $113 for a bundle of 20.
Wow.
And then that was but you couldn't buy that cigar today for $113.
No.
Yeah. So it's
crazy. Now,
it's interesting how it changed.
When's the last time you had a double Chateau?
It's been a while.
So if you smoked the double Chateau now, would it be like the double Chateau you had in the 90s?
Well, I could actually kind of tell you.
Yeah.
I'd have to smoke them again. I still have some double Chateau Fuentes from the 90s.
Wow. Okay.
But they've changed. Like you were saying earlier, like about like the aging thing. Like I have found like I have cigars that are from the 90s because I bought a bunch and I wanted to keep them, right? And so I wanted to age them or whatever you wanted to do with them. But so if you buy a box, right, and you want to age it, so let's say that the ideal thing to do is you buy a box and you're aging it for like a year or two. Well, every year you should be buying a box so that you can smoke what's aged and you're still having this progression of cigars. Yeah. Well, my conundrum was that I bought a box. I never bought boxes in the ensuing years. So I still had the box. And then I was like, I should smoke it because it's been aged and it must be better. But I don't want to smoke it because I don't want to run out of them. But I've got nothing to replace it with. So I'm stuck. So I've got boxes and boxes of cigars that are like aged, but I've never smoked. But I have smoked them on occasion. Mm-hmm. So I've got like from Fuente, I've got like double Chateau Fuentes, Selection Privadas, and I'll smoke them once in a while. And I remember maybe 10 years or so, 15 years or so into it, I would smoke one. And I remember, and I was like, oh man, I waited too long because it was just a shell of what it was. Yeah. And I was like, oh God, I'm really bummed. I've got all these cigars and they just suck. But from what I've been figuring out is that you'll have, I think there's a progression with cigars, right? Yeah. You have this, it maybe goes up, and then maybe there's a period of dormancy because I've smoked cigars from the bus where it was like fallow, And then maybe a couple years later, I'll come back to it, try it again, because I'm just like, well, I should just try it because I'm bummed out and it's going to be hollow, but I'll try it anyway. And it was better.
Wow.
So I think the cigars will go through periods of heights and then lows and then back up to heights again. It's strictly anecdotal. I have no real evidence for this.
Oh.
No, and again, no. I don't know what that's about, but
I guess I didn't like that one.
that's just my experience. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see. But back to what I was asking about, like the anaerobic, is there fermentation? The reason I was asking that is because like we have this coffee that we call the Perla Negra, and it's a coffee that's produced for me by a place called by a family called the Mirish family down in Nicaragua, and they're in Matagalpa, which is about an hour distance from Esteli. So similar areas, right? And the coffee that we have produced for our cold brew, our iced coffee, is made by them, and we use a very specific process that they make for us called, and it's an anaerobic fermentation. They basically take the coffee while it's fermenting, and they wrap it in bladders, and it's kind of an anaerobic fermentation. It's low oxygen. And then, but the coffee in that environment goes under a malolactic fermentation. So you get a lot of the malic acids turn to the lactic acid. So you get a lot of like creamy and milky character to the coffee. And but I was just wondering, like in the situation where you're doing anaerobic, when you're pressing it and it's creating an anaerobic environment for the tobacco, does a fermentation occur in that environment?
I would think that it probably would.
Okay.
I mean, you look at the story with Perdomo and how they do their barrel aging process and how that really started. And it was I think the way I heard the story was Nick Perdomo was talking to his dad, and he was talking about the fermentation process for in the pelons, and because it goes up, it ferments, and then it kind of, that's all you're going to get from it. There's no more sugars. And then one day his dad's like, oh yeah, but you can jumpstart that again. He's like, how can you do that? All the sugars are gone. It's done. He goes, oh no, you put it in whiskey barrels.
Oh, because of the residual sugar in the barrels.
Right. It jumpstarts that fermentation process. So he's like, might as well try it. So he picked up a barrel. He took tobacco, put it back in the barrel, and all of a sudden the heat started shooting up and started going through another process. It started going through the fermentation process again. So it was a double fermentation. Now, the tobacco was not intended to, and really doesn't pull in flavors from the whiskey barrel. But it's that secondary fermentation that it goes through that gives you a little bit more, I guess, depth and something else that's different, more interesting. So,
is that what they're using in their like champagne line? Do you know?
No, not champagne. I think they did it they had the anniversary series, and they have the next series above that. And then when they reblended the, I believe the Habano line, they used the barrel aged tobacco in that as well.
Interesting. That's interesting.
I haven't driven into their portfolio too much. Once again, they're a big fan of that 52, 54, 60 ring gauge.
Right. So
I haven't dipped into it too much myself.
Okay. Well, that's interesting when you talk about this barrel fermentation. I've been one of my friends who's also one of the growers I work with, Enrique Ferrofino. He's also in Matagalpa, Nicaragua, and I've been after him for the last like 5 years. And he finally messaged me like earlier this. He's like, "I'm doing it now." I was like, "Oh, okay, good. Let's send me samples when they're ready." But I've been telling him we need to take a coffee and do the fermentation in used Flor de Caña rum barrels.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not sure exactly how he's processing it right now because it's COVID, so we can't go anywhere in the world. So I have not been able to get down to Nicaragua this year, but that's something that I wonder if there's similarities between the two. There's
got to be. It'd be interesting to see how it takes with coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, in the coffee world, like there's a lot of people that have been taking, finished green coffee, dried green coffee, and they're putting in like red wine barrels, and they're trying to get the essence of the red wine into it, and that's an interesting to do. I'm not really interested in that because it's just not my jam. I really wanted to get more in I wanted to do that barrel work in the processing stage, like you're saying in cigars with the pre-industry, and that's kind of where I'd like to see more of that exploration.
Right. That'd be interesting. It'd be very
Yeah,
interesting.
hopefully it turns out well, and we'll get samples. So Enrique, if you have me watching this, I'm still waiting. Actually, Enrique is actually a big smoke. He'd be good. I should really tell him that he's got in addition to his coffee farming, he also has a couple of coffee shops in Nicaragua called Selección Nicaragüense. So if you go to Matagalpa or Esteli, he's got shops there, and but he's also they sell cigars too. So he works with the Cuencas at Hoya de Nicaragua, and they sell the Hoya Reds and a few other lines at the cigar shop. So you can go there, have coffee and a cigar, and it's quite a good time.
Yeah. So
if you get down to Nicaragua, to Esteli or to Matagalpa, go check it out.
Absolutely. Get some boots.
Exactly. All right, I guess that's good for today. We've been here now for, I don't know, how long are we doing? 2 hours, 22 minutes. And I don't know what else there is to say. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get coffee, let us know. Come to sprocoffee.com. And if you use the discount code Coffee Live, you get 10% off. And so subscribe to the channel and like the video. We're going to come back next week. Next week's cigar is going to be the PDR, the Abe Flores Serie Privada 1975, the SP54 Maduro. So come join us Thursday night at 8 o'clock again. We'll be back. Yeah. Right on. Anything else?
No, that's very much it.
All right, then. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely.
See you guys later. Have a great night. Ciao. Oh.
See Tony.